Yes. Hey, congratulations on your new film, My Home Unknown.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to share this film finally now with the world. Can't wait.
Terrific. I mean, I've watched it. I was fascinated by the story,
Yeah.
but let's hear it from you first. Is where the original idea came from for My Home Unknown?
Sure. The way that I usually get my inspirations for things, it's kind of like in stages and in three like major main parts. The first one usually is how I get a character or a story or an idea is either through my sleep or in meditation. I have to get my conscious mind out of the way to be open, and then something comes through. And then it's also being in my immediate world, my surroundings, observing things, taking things in. And then the third part is drawing things from my personal lived experience and merging everything in a fictionalized story together. So with My Home Unknown, the initial um, impulse was we were in the middle of or very the start in the middle of the pandemic, full shutdown. Nobody knew, remember what was going to happen, how long it was going to last. And so the film industry was shut down completely. And my initial impulse was like, well, I don't want to wait and sit around. I want to do something. So that was the impulse. And then I had to go to the second stage of like, well, what is it that I can actually realistically could do? And I was going through some stuff, ideas and characters or scripts that I had sort of worked on. And that was a character, Mina, that I had played around with a little bit, but wasn't quite sure yet what to do with it. So that came up. And then it was also my immediate world in LA, in Los Angeles, is when all the homelessness crisis started to really grow, and you would see tents go up everywhere. I had people sleep at the corner of my house all the time. So that was filtered in, and then lived experience from my own life, as the whole question in this film around home. Where is home? Where do I belong? I come from a biracial family, so for me growing up, it was always the question of like, where do I don't quite fit in here, but I also don't quite fit in there because we left that country, now we're living here. So it was all these different things, and not also the knowing of not having an address, a physical address to your name, and having to rely on your community to sleep on the couch or things like that were also things that I could relate to from my personal life. So it was a big mesh of everything, but it came out in that story of Mina and My Home Unknown.
Now, how did you do the research for getting into the character for Mina as a homeless person? Did you have to make observations, talk to homeless people, or I mean, what was your process?
So I wasn't really focused on that part of the character, to be honest, because to me, she doesn't know that she is experiencing homelessness, right? So in her mind, it's just temporary. So in her mind, she's kind of like going from one thing to the next, just trying to get a little bit ahead. So I was not really focusing on that. Now, like I said, as a director, I was living in the world where it was very prominent and present everywhere around me, right? So yes, I mean, I did have conversations with people, but I wasn't necessarily seeking them out. Like, oh, let me go on the street and talk to these people and ask them about, you know, what I should do. It was more the observation of people, and then, like I said, I had some sleeping at the corner of my house, which I had multiple conversations with, but just from human to human, not as a case study. Do you know what I mean? So it was just really the humanity of, what people are going through or might be going through. And it's so individual, there's not one main thing. Um, Now, what I did a lot of research or preparation for in terms of Mina was her mental health state. She's dealing with a pretty heavy mental health crisis. And so that to me was very important to portray authentically and with respect to people that are suffering from schizophrenia or other severe mental illnesses. And so I did a lot of research on that. As an actor, I have played many roles in that realm. So I had spent some time, this was years and years ago, actually in Europe when I was still living in Europe. I had spent about a week in a mental health institution with patients, and I was allowed to be there and interact with the patients, observe the patients and behavior like that. And also, I was going on a lot of forums for schizophrenia. I was actually having conversations with people there and listening to the experience that they have, especially with voices in their head and things, how it affects their life. And then we had the privilege to also consult with the specialist in schizophrenia from the Harvard-led McLean Hospital. She became a supporter of the film and really loves the authenticity and realness of it. And she wants to use the film actually as educational material for families that have people that are affected or going through things like that. So we had many outlets in terms of research for that part of Mina.
Now, how was the decision came to the decision of having a male voice in her head?
Yeah, so first of all, I wanted to make it very distinct that it's not like confusing in the sense of, oh, is this like her mother's voice or is it like her inner child, like her own voice? So for me, it was clear to make it a male voice. So that's very distinctive and different. And then also, interestingly enough, like I said, when I was talking to patients that are suffering from this illness, a lot of times, especially for females, it is a male voice that they're struggling or with or hearing. So it just kind of was the choice of that, and then I wanted the voice to be not cliche, just like evil, because it's really just a constant. It is a never ending narrating thing that's going on in the head. Sometimes it's harsh, sometimes it's casual, sometimes it can be luring in. So I wanted to give all of the colors and not just make it cliche like evil and hateful, which in some parts he is, as you know, you watch the film, and he can get very scary. But that depends also on Mina's situation. If she's more stressed, if she's more anxious, then the voice gets louder and gets maybe more intense. Like I said again, I wanted it to feel, or I wanted the audience to get a chance to have a realistic look into what it's like for people that are suffering from a mental illness like that. It's
So
very
true,
daunting.
so true, so true. Now, being an independent film and something that you started during the pandemic, was a decision to star yourself as Mina, or that became something that's as a decision as production gone along went along.
It was from the beginning clear that I was going to play that character, and there were two different reasons for it. The first reason, practicality of, you weren't really allowed to have more than two actors at the same time on set or like in a scene together. So it just made it. I mean, we filmed this with a four tiny skeleton crew because we had to shrink it down as much as we could. And so me being the writer and the director and then also the actor eliminated three people to one, right? So that was very helpful. And it also helped in the sense with timing because we didn't have much time because we had we were filming all over the streets in all kinds of locations. And so we had to move really fast at certain times, and me knowing the character so well, I didn't have the barrier of me as a director having to communicate and work with the actor. So that also helped time wise. And then the second main reason for this particular film was, like I said, because it was such a personal story that came through me because it also brought in the aspect of her Mina being a female with a Muslim background. So she's a BIPOC person that is an immigrant in this country, and so that is also me. That is my background, and bringing all of those things in, and like I said, the lots of personal things like the question around the home and the not fitting in, not not knowing where's home, where you're going to sleep the next day, and the mental journey that she's going on. It was just clear that this one had to be me, played by me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And how was your overall experience? Because this marks your feature full-length film debut as a director, because you've done short films before. So how was that overall experience? I mean, I guess a pandemic film is always a challenging experience.
Yeah. I mean, it was really an incredible journey. I gotta say, Gig, it's been, I mean, the challenges, of course, of a pandemic film, trying to get it done. But I had Diane Foster, who is an amazing producer and helping with all of those things as well. Um, but yes, during the pandemic was challenging. But then, of course, I mean, being the writer, director, and actor in something is always a challenge, right? I've done it with a short film before, so I knew kind of how to operate, and I knew I liked it. But a feature film, of course, is a whole another animal. I mean, it's you have to hold every scene, you have to know where you're coming from, where you're going in such a big arc. And to me, the key was really to surround myself with a really strong team that can support and help. So Diane Foster was there as the producer, and then Liana Montemayor was there as my first AD. So it was the three of us that really knew the story inside out, and that while I was on camera, I was setting out with my DP, Philip Greenbaum. And once that was all set up, then I could go and be the actor, and I could have Diane or Liana watch, monitor, and check that everything is okay. And performance wise, I would know if I had gotten it or if not. So I knew if I had to go right away again or not. If I thought it was fine, then I could just go check like a few seconds of the playback, and then we could move on. So it was an incredible collaboration. It was very challenging because we shot almost all of it on location, and so dealing with all of those circumstances shooting outside, and I mean our locations were like at the LA River.
Hmm.
I mean, we would carve down equipment up on a little hill, over a fence, down to the bridge, into the gutter. I mean, it was nuts. So all of these things, or we would show up on location, and because we were going into areas that were really housed by people that were on the street, and so sometimes we would show up, and the set looked completely different because it was just absolute destroyed, or it would be completely empty, nobody was there, or it was very crowded. Like, it was dealing with all of those things and being on your tiptoes the whole time, being available to change. And then as the writer, sometimes we would go to locations, and something happened, or there was a construction, and now all of a sudden we couldn't film because it's too loud. Then I would have to rewrite a scene on the go and come up with a new thing. And then as a director, okay, how can I film this? And then as an actor, okay, now I'm going to be in this situation, not in this. So it was really, really crazy, but also really, really fun. I love challenges, and I love to work that way. And having a great team is the key for that.
Sounds like you're already in the process, obviously wanting to do this again.
I do. I would love to actually do it. Not as crazy as this, not during the pandemic, not with a skeleton crew. I would love to. Yeah, I can't wait to do my next film. But definitely would like to do it in a little more traditional way of, having a budget and a crew that is not so stressful.
Oh, it's excellent. Well, yeah, so let me wrap it up with one last question. I've taken a lot of your
Yeah.
time, but we have to ask, especially for people who watch this film. Tell us about Burrito the dog.
Yes, Burrito. He is the star of the film. What an adorable dog. So Burrito was my dog, and my at the time my partner's dog, um, who is a wonderful rescue dog. So he was our personal dog, and he is a little bit more timid. So it took quite a bit of work when I was building the cardboard box, which is Mina's home and Burrito's home. I was building it in our living room, and I would have him come into the cardboard box to kind of get him used to it so he wouldn't freak out and all of those things. I did little things like that. He's very good with people, so all the crew was small and he knew everybody, so that was fine. But once we had one day where we scheduled basically all of Burrito's scenes for in the LA River, like the intense scenes, and like when he before he runs away and all of that stuff. And of course, his nerves got to him, bless him, and he got very anxious and he started to have hiccups and he was starting to throw up a little bit. So we had to stop. And we actually had to reschedule that entire day because I didn't want to push the dog, of course. And we had to give him some more time. By that time, I had brought him to the location before in order to kind of get used to it. But he's just like us. The camera's rolling. All of a sudden, he got the stage fright, and we had to reschedule. It was a little crazy. Diana had to do some rescheduling in the production, but hey, it is what it is. You got to do what you do when you're working with animals. But yeah, he's the star of the film.
Well, you did it. So congratulations once again for My Home Unknown. Thank you very much, Yas, for speaking to us about this film. It's very touching and we could feel the journey and what Mina was actually
Mm.
through. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and I'm so excited for everyone to see it.